In order to have a successful travel agency, you really need to be successful in three areas. You have to be able to open, you have to be able to close, and you have to be able to scale. You have to be able to open an opportunity, typically with a pitch about how you can solve your client's problem. You have to be able to close the sale because, of course, the longer that you wait, the more likely it is that they're going to fall off or that they're going to book elsewhere. And you have to be able to scale because you're not going to be able to run your business the same way with 500 clients that you did with 5. So this episode is a quick look at opening, closing, and scaling. This episode is brought to you by Palladium Hotel Group. As agents, we're always looking to send our clients to a resort where we know that they're going to have an incredible experience. And the TRS Coral in Costa Mujeres is that resort for me. It's a gorgeous property with beautiful swim-up rooms, top-notch service, and great food and drink. I loved it so much during my stay that I came home and immediately booked one of my best friends to stay there. She's also vegan, and she was super impressed with the different dining options. Our director of weddings, Itzel Rodriguez, has actually stayed there 3 times since it opened 4 years ago. To learn more about the TRS Coral or how you can partner with Palladium Hotel Group to grow your agency, visit pro.palladiumhotelgroup.com/EN. When I'm training new agents, one thing that we work on is their pitch. We'll start simple. I'll just say, okay, if you have a friend and y'all are out for dinner and drinks and they ask you what you do, how do you explain your value to them and how you can solve their problem? Of course, you can focus on the knowledge and experience, just information. You can focus on how much time and effort you'll save them by doing the research, which is convenience. You can focus on being a single point of contact as opposed to a 1-800 number, which of course focuses on the relationship and reliability and dependability. You can focus on being there for them in case any complications come up, which of course is confidence and assurance. There are a handful of different angles, and you should be able to communicate all of them because, of course, different clients have different preferences and different needs. And eventually you'll be able to get to a point where you'll be able to tell what your clients value, and you'll be able to tailor your pitch specifically to them based upon that. For instance, if you had a friend that absolutely loves planning, you're not going to tell them about how you're going to save them time planning because they want to be a part of that. So instead, you're going to stress how much fun you're going to have collaborating and working together and researching and discussing all the options, that it's going to be a fun process to plan the trip together. If you charge a service fee or a pre-planning fee, then of course, you're going to need to be able to communicate why your clients should pay that. Personally, I don't think it's a good idea to lean into this concept of, well, otherwise I won't get paid for my work. Because typically that's not going to be super convincing for them because that's about you. You getting paid for your work is your problem. It's not their problem, right? So your pitch has to be focused on their problem. You need to explain why them paying that service fee is going to make their life better. For instance, what we do with our wedding couples is we tell them that service fee is a sign-up commitment by our couples that enables us to go above and beyond. We're able to provide more value because we focus our efforts on our clients that are committed to us. You're also going to need a pitch for why they should book with you. This is after you've given them all the information, after they've figured out the resort, after they know the destination and the travel dates and all that information. And you're going to need to explain why they should book through you as opposed to directly through the hotel or maybe through an online travel agency. This is an area where a lot of agents lean into that. If you don't book through me, then I won't get paid for any of the work that I've done for you. And that's a totally understandable position to have because doing all that work and then having somebody take that information and book somewhere else is horrible. It's like the worst feeling ever. But again, you getting paid for your work is your problem. And while that pitch might work on some people, they'll feel bad and want to make sure they show their appreciation by booking for you. I personally don't think it should be the primary lever to secure business. You can still tell them and make sure they know how the compensation works, but I would focus specifically on why booking through you is going to make their life better than booking directly through the hotel. Again, you can focus on all the things I mentioned earlier. You can focus on how you're going to use your knowledge and experience to help them improve their stay and find excursions and tours. You can also stress how you're going to be a single point of contact who's going to take care of everything in case there's any complications. You have great relationships with the resort and with the wholesalers, so that there's any type of problem in the future, that you're going to be the one to take care of it. It's also a good idea to use narrative or story if you can, as that's going to be more memorable. For instance, you could say, just last week, I had a client who had their flight canceled. And I was able to take care of that for them and to secure another flight. They didn't have to stress by spending, 3 hours on hold trying to call the airline. I took care of everything for them. This is why it's valuable to have me as your go-to contact and as an advocate on your behalf. Focusing on your pitches is just a super important part of being a travel agent. And the more practice that you put into it, the easier it's going to be, the more refined it's going to be, the more convincing it's going to be. And you're not even going to have to think about it. It's just going to come out. On the other end, one of the most common complaints from agents is getting ghosted. And it's understandable because there's few things more frustrating than spending weeks or months helping somebody just for them to fall off the face of the earth. If this is a problem that you're consistently running into, then I highly recommend that you check out episode 11, where I detail my process for minimizing the number of clients who ghost you. One of the best ways to minimize the number of clients who fall off is to continue building momentum, is to make sure the process continues to move forward. And then when it gets to the end, you have to take them off the market, which means that you have to ask for the sale. You have to close them. A lot of agents are maybe afraid to explicitly ask, but there's some value to just saying, would you like to apply your deposit and secure this package today? If you want a softer approach, what I used to always do was I would tell them, okay, if you provide me with your full names exactly as they appear on your passports and your dates of birth, then I can put your reservation on a complimentary 24-hour hold. You can discuss it with your fiance. And then of course we can cover any questions or concerns. And then if everything looks great, we can apply your deposit and confirm your reservation. I'm not entirely sure why it works so much, but it was my go-to move of just saying, I'm going to go ahead and get this on hold for you. And 9 times out of 10, they were ready to make the deposit within 24 hours. So of course, once you've mastered opening and you've mastered closing, then you're going to get more and more business. And then it's about how do you scale your business? And there are a lot of aspects to scaling a business. For instance, if you haven't listened to episode 13, you can check it out. It's a great episode on how you can improve your system and streamline your process, which is going to make it easier for you to scale your business. But on this episode, I want to focus on one specific thing, which is hiring, so that you can work on your business and not for your business. When I first started in 2009, I took over all of my brother's customers and clients so I could focus on growing the leisure travel portion of the business, and he could focus on building the business, building the technology, focusing on the marketing, focusing on the systems and new areas and opportunities, basically the millions of tasks that you need to do to be able to grow a business. If my brother Tim had never stopped booking travel, we wouldn't be where we are today. Hiring is one of the most important aspects of scaling, but it requires that you give up some control. And that's really hard for a lot of agency owners. They feel that their name is on the line and that they're never going to find somebody who cares as much as they do. And ultimately, they're right. No one's going to care about the business as much as they do. Early on, there's a good chance that nobody's going to be as good as you at doing it. But unless you can find a way to clone yourself, you're going to have to be able to give up some control. And if you don't want to, maybe you just want to have a one-person show and keep it small, that's totally fine. It's your business, right? It's your vision. But there are a lot of agents and agency owners that would be a lot happier if they just were willing to give up a little control, to hire a team, start scaling their business, and then focus on the areas of the business that will really make it grow. And ultimately, that will be the most enjoyable and rewarding for them. I remember in 2015, when it was still my brother, my mother, and me. And we were looking to hire our first person outside of the family. And of course, we were stressed because, it was super important that we find the perfect person. We got to find just the right person. And I remember we were talking with one of Tim's friends who owns a real estate business. And we were explaining the hiring process and how we wanted to do it right. And he's like, no, shotgun approach. You're not going to know. You just got to hire them, do the best you can. You keep the ones that work, you get rid of the ones that don't. And at the time, it sounded absolutely insane because this felt like the biggest step the business had ever made. But it's only now looking back that I can realize that he was right. Since that time, we've hired members of the team that weren't a good fit, and it was fine. It was part of the learning process. It was part of the curve. And the reality is that you're never going to know in advance. And so when I talk to agency owners about the hiring process, I tell them, you can't overthink it. Really, just do the best you can. And then again, if it works out, keep them, train them up, give them support. If it's not a good fit, then it's not a good fit. And you just move on and hire somebody else. This is a process that you're just going to have to get used to, the unknown. Ultimately, we were lucky in that our first hire, Heather, was absolutely incredible. And she played, a very big role in scaling the destination wedding business and growing the company. But If that hadn't been the case, let's say it wasn't Heather, it was somebody else and they weren't a good fit, we would have eventually figured it out. We would have probably had to let them go and find somebody else who works. The reality is that you're just not going to know. And so this reluctance to let go of some control and to not make the move because you're not sure it's going to be the right one is ultimately going to hinder you from taking the steps that you need to scale your business. So again, I hope this episode was helpful. Until next time, take care.